Good morning. How are you? What's up, boys? Today we're taking a look at Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. This game's a thrilling, story-driven action RPG with a rich open world set in 15th century medieval Europe. Experience the ultimate medieval adventure through the eyes of young Henry as you embark on a journey of epic proportions. Yeah, okay. So this game was developed by Warhorse Studios and published by Deep Silver. They're the same publishers behind games such as the Metro series, Saints Row, Dead Island, and Payday 3. Take that for what you will. Now, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 runs off of the Cry engine, the same engine used to make the original Crysis and Far Cry games. Warhorse used a modified in-house version of the Cry engine on Kingdom Come Deliverance 1 and 2. This game's story has you playing as Henry. Like I said, he's an ex-blacksmith apprentice who's now in service of Lord Hans Capen. You're sent to deliver a message to another kingdom. It should have been a routine mission, but you're ambushed during your travels. Then you're stripped of everything and separated from Hans Capen. And then you gotta get back on your feet while trying to unravel what's going on in this faraway kingdom. Now, the story really didn't do it for me. I hated Lord Hans Capen right away, and I wanted to bludgeon him in the fucking head and keep it moving like 2 hours into the game. You can choose how you want to play, as you're given the freedom to choose how to respond in situations, as well as being able to steal from people and make your own path in the world. Now, the idea sounds great, but you really can't do what you want, because there's always consequences to your actions. So even if nobody sees you steal something, you'll come back days later only for someone to start screaming, "There he is! Arrest him! He robbed me!" So because of this, you're just better off walking the straight and narrow path and, doing everything the way the game intended you to do it. That's my takeaway from it. So let's move right into the good aspects of the gameplay. They do a great job of making you feel like you truly are just some random medieval peasant. And they did that in the first one too. Now, before we dive into this, I do want to say that I did not get through the first Kingdom Come Deliverance game. I bought the game when all the expansions were out, and once I got to a Woman's Lot expansion, I just quit playing like halfway through it because I just got so bored. I'm like, get me to the action, something, please. So that's about as far as I made it in the first one because it was so boring. So I just wanted to put that out there to preface this before I really go into this so you understand where I'm coming from. So in this game, you aren't a Superman in this world or, one true hero. You will get killed very easily if you mess around too much. You were a former blacksmith apprentice, not some warrior knight, crazy sword skills, all that shit. I mean, you might have to do some work chores, such as like hauling sacks of grain for a shopkeeper in order to make a bit of coin, which is pretty cool role-playing aspect of it. You're just a peasant, you gotta do what you gotta do to make some money, including stealing. And you have your RPG elements like ranking up one-handed and two-handed weapons, speechcraft, sneaking stats. It's your standard leveling system. You do said thing, you get points, you rank up, you're better. Nothing we haven't really seen before. And there are a few survival aspects to the game, such as having to sleep and eat food. You will become tired and eventually pass out from exhaustion if you don't make sure you get enough sleep. And if you don't eat, you'll obviously die. The game does just enough with the eating and sleeping to give you that LARPing medieval peasant feel, while also not really forcing you to eat and sleep every 2 minutes like some other games do. So that was a cool aspect. And if you want to, you can hunt for your own food with the bow. The hunting in the game is actually pretty satisfying. You can track down deer and boar to hunt, and once you kill them, you butcher them and cook them. And you can make all kinds of different food, including steaks and stews at cooking pots once you have the ingredients. And the crafting and alchemy systems in this game are pretty unique. When you make potions, you actually have to do the alchemy concoctions yourself. You open the book, you pull out the ingredients, and you start boiling potions. It's a pretty cool idea, and it's fun at first, but eventually it just becomes boring, tedious, and time-consuming. I got sick of it. And when you want to sharpen your weapons, you literally have to sit down at a grindstone and sharpen your weapon by hand. And once again, it's a pretty cool idea at first, but it gets boring fast. The massive open world is done pretty well, and it can be nice to just sit in the world, and take it all in. The thick forests, the open road at dusk, and sitting at a random campsite you found on the side of the road at night, it really gives this game a unique atmosphere. And the atmosphere of the game in general was probably my favorite part about the entire experience. You can pretty much go and do whatever you want, whenever and however you want. Having personal freedom as a player to tackle things the way you see fit is a big part of the fun in these types of open world games. The problem comes in when you're given the illusion of choice, but really, the game funnels you down the road it wants you on. That can be very frustrating, and this game tends to do that on many occasions. One example of that would be you decided to rob someone's house, and there's nobody around at the time, and nobody saw you creep into the area from the woods. You sneak into the house, you rob a chest, and you sneak out undetected. You leave and you go about your business, you sell the stolen goods a few towns over. Then you decide to come back like 3 days later, and a lady runs up again and screams, "Thief! It was you who stole from our house! Guards, the thief is back!" And you're just left standing there like, okay, prove it, lady. Of course, there's no proof. The guard comes up, sees you have no stolen goods on you, and he still wants you to pay him or go to the pillory. And you just say fuck it and pay him. It costs you more to pay him than what you got for the stolen goods. And so quickly you realize it's just not worth stealing. So I would have been better off just being a good little boy, That's what I mean by the game has a roundabout way of making you do what they want. Yeah, you got to play how you wanted, but nothing was gained. You lost in the end because you didn't play it straight, the way the game wanted you to. It's really unfortunate because you feel that while playing this game so many times. It starts to slowly destroy your will to keep playing once you notice it. Now, the horse riding in this game isn't too bad. It feels pretty smooth, all things considered, and the horse tends to stay with the group and on the path when you want it to, so that was nice. And horses also have their own inventories, kind of like Red Dead Redemption 2, which is really useful for hauling your wares around. Alright, let's move on to the bad aspects of gameplay here. All aspects of the combat are atrocious. There was absolutely nothing to like about any of the combat in this game, whether it was ranged bow combat, sword and shield combat, or fist fighting. It was all slow, sluggish, and unresponsive. I mean, half the time when you press the swing button, your guy just stands there and does nothing, while the other guy bludgeons you to death. From what I gathered, they want you to constantly riposte during the entire combat. So, you wait for them to attack, you parry, then you attack, they parry, then they attack, and so on, until you run out of stamina and then they bludgeon you to death. The biggest problem with this though, like I said, is half the time when you parry and you go to counterattack, the game doesn't register you pushing the fucking attack button. So you just block them and then stand there. Nothing was fun about anything that was happening during combat. And God forbid if there's more than one enemy, then you're figgity fucked. I understand that you aren't a skilled warrior. And as Edward Furlong said, you can't go around killing people! I get it, but the controls at least have to work correctly for me to be able to fight back. Buttons not registering was the most frustrating part about the combat and the game overall. The slow, sluggish, unresponsive combat is literally a game breaker for me. And saving your game is also a game breaking problem here. So you can only save your game if you pay to sleep at an inn, drink a certain save game drink that you have to buy with gold, progress a story arc, or save and quit the game. Now the problem with this, especially during the early game, is that you don't really have coin to be spending on a bunch of save drinks, and the lady at the inn doesn't like you, so she won't let you sleep there. Now I understand why they did this. They wanted to make it more realistic and make you be more careful about your decision making, because when you can't save scum, you think twice about losing hours of progress. It's understandable. But what happens is, you're just exploring around, doing your thing like the game supposedly promotes you to do. Then after 2 hours of exploring and not saving, because you're, exploring away from an inn, you don't have save potions because no money, and you aren't progressing the story because you're exploring. You stumble across some bandits on the road, not just one, but like 3, and they proceed to kill you in 2 seconds, and just like that, you lost hours of progress. These moments are absolutely infuriating, and nobody wants to keep wasting hours of time just to lose it all. This to me is unacceptable. Now, having to do everything by hand, such as crafting and alchemy, is cool and novel at first, but quickly wears off and starts to feel like a waste of time. I mean, you just get sick of having to do it. You got 2 hours to play tonight. Well, too bad. You're going to be spending it making alchemy potions and grinding your blades at the grindstone. Fuck that shit. The inventory system and UI is an absolute nightmare. Just like everything else in this game, navigating the menus is a slow and painful process. Shifting through tabs to get what you want is frustrating. Certain tabs don't show you everything you need sometimes, so you have to go back and forth with the laggy menus to see what you need. For example, when you're on the inventory page, you can't quite see your nutritional levels as the menu cuts them off, so you have to tab over to see where you're at, then go back and eat food. It's really annoying when it's slow and laggy. I also had repeat NPC quests happen to me in the 16 hours that I played the game. 2 different NPC messengers had the same quest, asking me to punch them in the face because they lost a message, and their lords would kill them if they don't look like they got beat up along the way. I was surprised to see repeat quests that fast, to say the least. And I also experienced a completely broken quest. I was tasked with dealing with some rowdy Cuman guests at the tavern. The lady said, "Deal with those guys sitting right there." So I turn around and there's nobody sitting at any of the tables. I'm like, what the fuck? So I start looking everywhere around the building, in the building, at the buildings next to it, in the courtyards. I can't find these fuckers anywhere. Then the quest changes and she comes up and says, "What did you do? Now there's a brawl and you need to break it up." I'm like, okay, once again, I'm looking everywhere for this brawl and nothing's happening. Then the quest changes again and I go talk to the lady and she says, "Hey, thanks for dealing with those Cumans for us." The fuck? By the way, that was in the very first town you start in. One of the very first quests you can do, and it was broken. Like I said earlier, trying to go outside the norm in this game, such as being a thief, can be really frustrating. You are constantly getting caught somehow, even though there's no way anybody knows you stole anything. And it just ends up not being worth it in the end to be a thief. I mean, I guess they wanted to make it realistic, but damn. It's like they made all the dumb, mundane things realistic and left out the fun gameplay. The overall feel of the movement in general can be summed up as just clunky. Everything you do is clunky. Walking around is clunky. Fighting is ultra clunky. Searching things is clunky. Lockpicking is clunky. Everything you do is just janky and clunky in a bad way. Honestly, I didn't expect it to be this janky and clunky. You know, seeing as they're using a modified version of the CryEngine for this game. Man, it's a damn shame what this game's gotten to for people like me and people like you. Alright, so to summarize the gameplay, you know, the overall gameplay just wasn't fun in my opinion. Everything about this game is just clunky, slow, and unresponsive. The combat is the worst of it, with the game not registering your controls and you just staring at a mace bludgeoning your head. You know, the crafting and alchemy get old fast too, and you just want to progress through the game instead of wasting hours on a grindstone or making potions. And talk about wasting hours, not being able to save your game when you need or want to really puts a damper on the overall experience. You only need to lose hours of progress a few times before you get pissed and shelve this game forever. Never to be played again. Even when you factor in the good parts of the gameplay, it still doesn't make this game fun. At the end of the day, it's just not a fun game. Okay, now let's talk about the good aspects of the visuals. Most of the time, the game looked gorgeous. It's not the best graphics in the world by any stretch, but the CryEngine can still get it done when it wants to. The world feels alive and the vegetation in this game looks amazing. And the player models are done really well here too. I mean, most of the characters and NPCs look historically accurate, and the faces and hair looked pretty good too. I really appreciated the day and night cycles in this game. They look and they feel really good. Some games can't seem to get day-night cycles correct, oftentimes having them be way too fast or way too slow, whereas Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 seems to find that perfect balance of how long a day and a night should be. They feel long enough for you to get everything done in a day that you need to, but not so long that you're just waiting around constantly for one cycle or the other. And the weather effects are also on point in this game. I mean, when it's storming, you really get the feeling you're in one. The rain is just pouring down, the people scurry inside, and it looks and feels pretty realistic. Alright, moving on to the bad aspects of the visuals. Cutscenes would sometimes get slow or choppy, but not very often. And when talking to some NPCs, they would be like standing on a chair or a table during the scene, making everything look really weird and odd, with my guy just like staring up at this towering NPC looking down on him. I mean, it was pretty funny, but it takes you out of the moment. And for this to tout itself as a realistic medieval game, I was very disappointed with the amount of gore in this game. There is blood, but I didn't see any decapitations or lost limbs during my 16 hours of playing. Now, there might be some in there, but I never encountered it. Okay, so to summarize the visuals, the game was fairly well optimized and I didn't experience any crashes while playing. There were a few disappointing aspects of the visuals, such as lack of gore and choppy cutscenes at times, but overall this game looked really good. And it's sad because the game looks so good that you want it to be good, but it's just not. Okay, moving on to the good aspects of the sound. I thought the soundtrack was well done. The music fits the setting and changes to set the tone depending on what's going on. The sound effects are on point, with the clanging of the swords, to the smashing of the shields, to the rowdy townsfolk at the local tavern. You know, this game nails the sound of the 15th century medieval Europe. And the voice actors do a great job here as well. I mean, you could tell that some of these people really got into their parts, and it just adds that much more to the atmosphere of this game, the best part of the game. Now, the bad aspects of the sound, I don't really have anything bad to say about the sound. From what I experienced, it was all on point and very well done. So to summarize it, they nailed the sounds of medieval Europe in this game. Really appreciated the attention to detail that went into the sounds, and you can tell the developers really cared about getting it right in the sound department. Alright, so what are my final thoughts of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? You know, I really tried to get into this game, and there were a few moments where I felt myself starting to, but then the clunkiness and slow, sluggish combat reared its ugly head and immediately destroyed any fun I thought I was having. Nothing can save this game from itself, and it's really unfortunate, honestly. You can see a great game there somewhere, but the insistence on making everything realistic in the worst ways possible slowly erodes your experience until you just want to turn it off and move on. That took me about 16 hours before I had enough. You can't save your own game either, with them making it very hard for you to save your progress, thereby hindering you from progressing in the game. A couple times of losing hours of progress is all you need in order to uninstall and never play this bitch again. Nothing about the story was very captivating, and all I wanted to do was bludgeon my own lord's head in for the first few hours of the game. It was also very slow going, just like everything else in this game, which just really hurt the overall experience. The sound and graphics were done pretty well here, but it couldn't save the game from the awful clunky movement and combat. Nothing can save it from that. In some games, jankiness and clunkiness can be positives, or are so minuscule that, you can look past them to find the fun. This game is a great example of the opposite of that. This is an example of how terrible jankiness and clunkiness can completely ruin an otherwise great game, and it's very unfortunate. So should you buy this game? No! No, don't buy this game. It's definitely not worth full price. And if you have to play it, I would wait until the game's like $7.99 with all the expansions a year from now. It's just not something you have to play. And if you really want something like this, just buy the first one with all the expansions for $7.99. It's basically the same game anyway. But yeah, it's just really unfortunate because I really wanted to like this game, but it just wasn't fun for me. And if a game isn't fun, then why the fuck should we play it? Alright guys, that's gonna do it for me, man. I did not enjoy this game at all. I really thought I would, but I just didn't. I want to know what you guys think about it if you have played it. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? I know I have my personal tastes, and some people will like this game. So I understand if you do like it. I get where you're coming from. But for me, this game was a fucking bore fest, and I just couldn't take it anymore. I took about 16 hours of this, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I'll move on. But yeah, let me know down below what you guys think. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm going to get the hell on out of here and hit that uninstall button on this game and keep it moving. So I will talk to you guys later. Peace.